I thought I could do it, but I can't. I cannot bring myself to open up these blinds to have better lighting for this video. It's so hot. It's so hot out there. It's hot in here. I'm sweating. So we just have to do this wrap up in the like semi bad. It doesn't even look that bad to you. It looks bad to me. My AC has gone out. I can't believe it. I'm doing everything I can to keep this house cool. My bathtub is full of ice cold water, and every like 20 minutes there's dogs. I just go stand in the water to cool down my feet, and then I think it'll cool down my whole body. I did find a use for the whiteboard I used in my last video where I was writing down all my guesses, and I put it in the window, and I'm trying to block, like I had all the windows open in the beginning of the morning when it was like 25 out and it was 27 in here for some reason. I used all the fans. I got all the air circulating. As soon as it hit the same temperature outside, shut everything down. Everything is dark and someone needs to fix it. Someone needs to fix it. But it's now 30 degrees in here and I have to listen to barking dogs. Usually I'll shut this door at least so you can't hear the neighbor dogs, the evil neighbor dogs as much. And if I shut any doors, oh my god. I don't even know if this is gonna be coherent. Also, you didn't want to hear me complaining when I opened the video. I read 20 books in the month of August. I read 7,581 pages. And I did a bunch of vlogs about all of the books. I'm going to run through the rating that I gave them, and then there will be 5, I think, at the end that I haven't reviewed for you yet. My average rating for the month was a 3.7. Pretty incredible. I had quite a few 5 stars. Like one was a reread, but I had 5 stars. I didn't have too many 2 stars, and there was quite a few 4s. So like overall, I just think we're winning. We're succeeding. I wanted my average rating for the year to be 3.7. 1 month out of 8 so far, I have hit that. Let's see. I read mostly physically. Almost perfect mix of authors that were new to me versus ones that I've read from before. A lot of books that I bought, not a ton from my TBR closet or my TBR shelf. I borrowed quite a few. Mostly horror books this month, but a good amount of fantasy, mystery, romance, and then at the end I'll have all the superlatives. But let's go through what I read. The End of the World as We Know It is an anthology. If you didn't watch this video, I guess the people, like the core audience who comes back to every single video regardless, they're also the ones who watch my wrap up, so you probably already have watched this one, but maybe a couple people have trickled in who haven't checked this out. If you don't care about this anthology or Stephen King or whatever, it's so hard to market this video and exactly explain what it is just by the title and the thumbnail. So what I did is I'll just explain it here. I blacked out all of the author names and I did a deep dive on a whiteboard of guessing who wrote each story, and I review each story without spoilers, and it took me 8 months to make that video. If the marketing wasn't fun, just know that the video, when you click on it, I think it is kind of fun. I ended up giving this a 3.5 overall. I read Blood on Her Tongue by Johanna Van Veen, who I actually didn't even realize when I picked this up that I have this author already on my TBR. I DNF'd one of her books, but only like in the moment, like a soft DNF. And this was her latest one. I gave this 3 stars. More horror. We've got Lucky Day by Chuck Tingle. I gave this 4 stars. A Game in Yellow by Haley Piper. I gave 3 stars. Sorry, let me hop in. I always forget to do this. If I don't have the physical book in front of me, I forget to review it in the section. So now I'm at the end, but I have to come back and tell you I also read what's it called? Tantrum by Rachel Eve Moulton, which I did not like, and I gave it a 2. And then How to Survive a Horror Story, which was like a malevolent house horror, I gave that one a 3.5. Then the one nonfiction of the month that I read was I Contain Multitudes by Ed Yong, and I gave this 4 stars. The Raven Boys graphic novel, I gave, this is so hard to rate, because like, am I rating it based on the art? It would be a 4. Like, it was beautiful, but I don't think the artist gave the emotions on the faces of all of the characters that I read about when, you know, I read my favorite series, and then I reread it and I reread it and I reread it. I love that series so desperately, and even though I don't love a graphic novel, like, I can appreciate the art. It was so fun seeing all of the houses and the forests and everything that I just had to envision in my mind, and it all looked exactly how I expected. It's just like the characters, they weren't giving what I needed. But then if I'm rating based off of plot, outside of knowing what the Raven Cycle is, just like how this was constructed, I would give it like a 2. I don't think this was really successful because while I can appreciate as a huge fan of the series, I know I'm not supposed to review it, but I just wanted to give a concise review for anybody who didn't watch the video that I read this in, because I know it was full of romance stuff and this didn't really quite fit. It was bar for bar the book without the exposition and the plot. It was just like the dialogue, obviously, because it's a graphic novel. But I just think it could have chosen different scenes or different parts of different scenes or different dialogue, or switched it up a little bit to make more sense to enjoy just as this. This feels like a companion for people who like it. Or it's a good introduction to people who have never experienced the Raven cycle, because they see this and they're like, oh, that was unsatisfying. I don't really understand what was happening. That's how I imagine people would read it. And then they'll go pick up the most incredible series of all time. So overall, I think that's where I have to land at a 3. Then we had some fantasy romance mixes, A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sengu Mandana. I gave a 4. And I also gave a 4 to Tusk Love by Tia Guanzon. Then some other kind of fantasy romance mixes, but more on the romance side, I would say, than really building out these fantastical or surreal situations. The Geographer's Map to Romance by India Holton, I gave a 3. And The Love of My Afterlife by Kirsty Greenwood, I gave a 5. This is something that's been recommended to me so many times and I like hyped up in my mind so many times. And I'm so glad that it delivered. I don't think it will for everybody, but it did for me. For some straight up romance, I read Forget Me Not by Julie Soto, another 5-star. So freaking good. And then When Javi Dumped Mari, which I was much more anticipating because I've read from this author and loved her before, I gave this one a 2. And finally, in the books that I've already fully reviewed in videos, is Five Found Dead by Sulari Gentle, and I gave this one, I think it was a 4. Okay, and then the things I haven't talked to you in vlogs thoroughly about. Like, I know I made an entire live show about this one, but this one I haven't spoken about at all. So I am definitely in my era of wanting silly, ridiculous, over the top mystery thrillers that go in like a dark comedy direction, go in a horror direction. I don't want super intelligent detective-like people solving crimes and being so smart. Like, I don't want to follow those people. I do not care. I want to follow the people who are stupid or who don't have a reason behind what they're doing and we're just following their journey. It's not about exploring the human condition, but it does have some heart to it. Like, it has some commentary, some themes to pull out, but more than anything else, it's just a wackadoodle time. And that's what I got from both of these. Julie Chan is Dead by Lian Zhang, I gave a 5. This is the only mystery thriller of the entire year I have given a 5. I also haven't read too many, but this is perfect for me. It's a satirical look at influencers and social media and like giving yourself over to the algorithm, the gods of the algorithm. We have these twin sisters who haven't grown up together, Julie and Chloe, and they were separated early. They don't really have a connection and they lead extremely different lives. Julie is struggling to make ends meet. She's working at a grocery store. She doesn't really know what direction she's headed in life. And Chloe is a rich and famous influencer. They communicate very briefly right as Chloe is dying and Julie goes to her apartment to check on her. It's a stolen identity story, but it starts out being a mistaken identity story, which I really like. It's just by happenstance. It's not this sinister reason necessarily that someone is taking over someone's life. Like, I don't love the stories where, especially the other person is alive and somebody is obsessed with them and is stalking them and is trying to steal their husband and their kids and their life. And it's like, it's this friendship that just gets really dark. Like, that's not my thing these days. This is, though, when someone accidentally gets mistaken for someone or takes an opportunity that just lands in their lap and they're like, I might as well, like, if this isn't going to harm the other person, they're already dead, I might as well, you know, go forth, whether their intentions are pure, like, I'm just going to go along with this thing that has happened in front of me. So Julie takes Chloe's life because Chloe was never really close to her to begin with. She doesn't see any reason not to when someone shows up and they're like, oh my God, you're Chloe. She's like, I guess I am. And she finds herself just becoming obsessed with the social media world and the likes and the comments and the money that comes in so quickly, which is what happens with so many influencers who get fame and fortune so quickly. They lose all morality. Julie might have thought that she was a perfectly moral person, but now she's doing things she wouldn't necessarily do. And she's connecting with this group of really vapid influencer girls who don't even recognize, like, they're her closest friends, supposedly, of Chloe's. They don't even recognize that Julie is now pretending to be Chloe. So she goes along with it. She ends up on this like kind of trip together with all of them, and things get ritualistic and in the dark horror direction. It's not necessarily about the twists and turns. There's nothing that is supposed to be like the biggest shocking moment of the book. It's just you're going along. There's all of these little reveals along the way that make it really fun. The chapters are super short. This is definitely like a one-day read, I feel like, for so many people. It is addicting, the book, and it's following someone who is addicted to social media and the new life that she has, and realizing maybe it's not all it's cracked up to be. Then we've got Too Old for This by Samantha Downing. I am a Samantha Downing girl. If you have felt mixed about all of her books, I don't think this is the one that's going to absolutely like change your mind. I've had a mix of ratings. I think I've given her a 2, but then the rest were 4s and 5s. Usually a 4 though. I feel like she doesn't quite stick the landing every time, but I have such a good time while reading. This is about a retired serial killer. You go into it knowing she's a killer. She has actively killed people. There are moments throughout the book where she reflects on killing people. And again, it's not a book specifically about like the human condition and diving into her mind and like what makes a killer. It's not like that. It's just you're going along with what she's doing and everything's kind of wackadoodle. You have to suspend your disbelief. When the book opens, she's being confronted with the kills that she committed, but someone is convinced that she didn't actually do it, and they want to make a docu-series kind of absolving her of her crimes and focusing on these situations where people have been wrongly convicted for things and shedding a light on these true crime moments that they feel really passionate about. Meanwhile, Lottie knows that she did commit the crime, so she's like, I don't want anyone digging into my past because they'll find out that I did actually do all of these things. So she has to take matters into her own hands, come out of retirement, as it were. She is elderly, and she's struggling with various things like how to commit certain crimes if her body can no longer keep up with it, how to keep secrets when she is starting to age in a way where she doesn't have all of her faculties anymore. She, beyond creating this like cycle of lying and committing a crime and then lying to someone else and trying to make people like manipulate people and make people manipulate each other, like detectives and these people involved in this TV show and whatever, she also has to deal with getting older and wanting to make the choice for herself of when to enter a retirement home. So she's touring various places. It's also exploring her relationship with her grown son and his ex-wife and his new wife. And there's a lot of just contemporary fiction vibes in here going about her daily life, but it's mostly about the things that she's trying to cover up and hide. And every step along the way, something is going wrong. She lies to one person and then they're going to talk to another person, and then everything's about to be exposed, so she has to kill someone. And then she's also, you know, going to the church potluck and the other ladies are there and they're judging each other's dishes. Again, this one, the intent is not about big twists and turns. It's just following her on this journey as she's nearing the end of her life and reflecting on the things that she's done and how she's going to continue doing them if that's what is going to make her continue to live the life that she's been living. I don't think everyone's going to love this one, but I had a good time. I got it from Aardvark. If you want to use my code LALA, you could grab it for $4 if you're just signing up and you live in the States. Then I read The Stand. I read this originally when I was a teenager, could not tell you at what point, maybe like 14, 15 years old. I read The Stand for the first time. I've never reread it. I've always thought about rereading it. My memory of it was before I reread it, not good, not clear. I just knew that I loved it. I did keep my 5-star, which I was a little bit surprised by, because as I was reading it, I was like, this would not be published today. Specifically this, of course, because this is the like complete and uncut version, which was published like 10 years after the original, which was a couple hundred pages shorter. But I don't even think that original would be published today. Just, it's so slow, it's so meandering, and it's just so quintessential Stephen King, where you're following like 30 different characters and you can't figure out who actually matters and who you should really pay attention to. It's just you have to let yourself be a part of the journey and things will unfold the way that they're supposed to. And then there's not really this fantastic payoff in the end. You know, with a lot of his horror books, like something wild's about to happen or there's some twists and turns. There's moments of like, oh my God, this one isn't really like that. You're just following these various communities. It's about a plague. It's about this respiratory illness that in 1990 kills off like 90% of the population or whatever. The novel takes place over pretty much a year, and it introduces you to all of these different people. There's like a girl at the beginning who's pregnant. There's a guy who's in this like hospital being examined for something. There are police officers, there are fugitives on the run, there's this musician who is just encountering fame and fortune for the first time. There's this deaf-mute character who is just getting revenge against some bullies. We meet them all independently, plus like 20 other people, as we see their family members die, them get sick themselves and die. And it's just a lot of kind of interpersonal drama between all of these characters. And slowly, as certain ones die off, certain other ones connect and they come together. And you're following like 30 at the beginning, and by the end you're with like 10 of them, and they've made little communities of their own. And there is fantasy involved, but it's just more of a plague apocalyptic story, but there is some like psychological efforts, I guess, that the dark and the light entities are creating. They're calling to people. And this is Stephen King's, one of his more fantastical books. It's always talked about as one of his more fantastical books as opposed to horror, but it is also just more like fiction than horror or fantasy. Like, this whole image here does not depict the plot of the book. It depicts kind of the vibe of the book, but it's not about these two creatures like fighting. I think the paperback gives a much better idea. Like, it looks like an apocalyptic story. What I'll say it to pitch it to you is it's not as intimidating as it looks. I promise. It's not hard to read. It's not hard to understand. It's just very slow and meandering, which is what he does already. So I don't think this is where to start with Stephen King. And if you get like halfway through it and you're like, is it worth it? Like, if you're already not enjoying it halfway through, it doesn't suddenly become something else. You have to enjoy the slow building and all of these people coming together, and you have to care about the characters, I think, to really want to finish this. It's definitely not for everyone. And I was surprised by the end that I still gave it 5 stars. I just thought everyone was so fascinating. I was so interested in everything that was happening, and I had a great time reading. If you didn't watch this video where I reread The Stand and read the short story collection that I showed you, you wouldn't know, but I also read like 100 short stories from 30 different authors to prepare myself to guess who wrote each one. So I have like 20 short story collections, anthologies in my house now that I only read like 1 to 3 stories from each of them to help me with the video. And obviously they're full of authors. Like, I wasn't gonna read the all 20 short story collections because so many authors in them wouldn't be the authors that I needed to read from. However, I did decide at the end of all of it to finish 2 of them. I'm sure I'll finish more later, but the 2 that I finished this month were Human Monsters. This is edited by Sadie Hartman and Ashley Saywers. And I just think woman-edited horror anthologies are kind of elite. This one is very good. It's about humans, like what the worst things that humans could possibly do and be. And a lot of horror leans into like supernatural and fantastical stuff. This one, I don't want to say for sure. For the most part, it is just real stuff. And that is where horror doesn't exist a ton to me these days. A lot of them end up in the thriller mystery realm, and we need more horror like that that's really solid and well done. So it was fun to read like 35 brand new tales of just horror. And they are very sick things happening in here. I wouldn't say all of them are super explicit, but there are some that are. And like every trigger warning would be in here. There were stories of sexual predators. There was a lot of childhood abuse and sexual abuse. Some of them were like, from the perspective to like, I'm just a bad person. I'm just a killer, and follow me as I go on a date with this person and I convince him to come back to my house and I slaughter them. But then a lot of them were like, I know this person is hurting people, this person harmed me, and I'm gonna get revenge against them. Watch me brutally kill them. My favorite moments in here, I can't tell you which story it was, but there was a bug story that you didn't know was a bug story going into it. Like, it was about something completely unrelated. And then the absolutely disgusting bug body horror at the end of that story was nightmare inducing. Like, it was so gross, and I'm obsessed with it. My favorite story in here was by Josh Mallerman. It's called A Sunny Disposition, and I want to tell you what it is, but I really want you to read it. It was about meeting up with this elderly man. He was reminiscing about his wife and how she had a sunny disposition, and it was fantastic. The book opened with my other favorite one, and again, I don't want to spoil exactly what it was. It's called 7 p.m. Award Ceremony followed by Girl Scout Auction at 8. I don't know who this author is. Sam Rebelline, but I need to find out because this was such a way to open this collection. It was fucked up and unexpected, and I loved it. Nat Cassidy had a story in here about a puppet. That was weird. There was a Stephen Graham Jones story in here that was just okay. My other favorites, there was one called, I should have tabbed it. It was called Total Price for a Human or something like that. And it was about a woman who was being stalked because somebody wanted to buy her baby. That one was like really interesting and different. And then Grave Bait by Chad Litsky, who I have read something from. This one was so fucked up. So do I recommend it? Absolutely. I couldn't give it a full 5-star because quite a few, there were 35 in here. So there were a lot of really short ones and they did get repetitive at one point because you're just dealing with like real life sick people. Do not read this just like in one day. Spread it out over a month and maybe you'll enjoy it even more than me. I gave a lot of things 3 stars, but because of a couple of those like really good 5s, I gave it a 4. Then I read We Are Where the Nightmares Go and Other Stories by C. Robert Cargill, because when I was reading this, I had to get introduced to his writing and I picked 3 that were the most well-loved. Like I looked on Goodreads where people gave reviews about each individual story and I picked the ones that were collectively agreed upon that were the best, and I really liked all of them. Like they were 5 stars. He writes a lot of like fairy tale horror. They were a lot of cyclical things. I'm gonna actually spoil one of them, like just tell you the concept of it because it was super interesting, and maybe if you're not interested in this, you would still want to know because this is the type of story that I like. So we followed a girl who was going to a carnival and she met up with this clown, and this clown was like touring her around the place, and she had to go play all of these games and win all of these riddles. Like she didn't know how she got there. I don't really remember everything that was happening. But at one point he was like, okay, if you have to shoot, you know those puppets, like the ones that stand up and you have to throw a ball at the clown head and then they fall over. He was like, if you kill all of the clowns or you kill one clown or something, then you win and you can get out of the carnival or whatever happened. And it took her until the end of the game to realize that she had to kill him, like her new friend at the carnival, her clown friend. And she shot him. And then it turns out that she is now like the clown. She now has to invite kids into the carnival, see who's ruthless enough to like win the games and like do fucked up stuff. And then she can be released from that duty. Oh, it was just so interesting. And I love things like that. So a lot of them were kind of like that. There was a Grim Reaper, and at the end of the story, you realize the person that he was reaping now became the Grim Reaper. So those 3 were so good. And then I went back to finish it, and there was only like maybe 4 more stories to read. They were different. They were, I didn't like them as much, but they were still interesting enough. So I feel like overall, I'm going to give this like a 3.5, maybe a 3.75, because those ones that were good were so good. But it did get like really sexually explicit and uncomfortable, and that's not the author that was in my mind, which is so interesting, because if I had read this entire short story collection in preparation for that video, I would have guessed a totally different story for him because I didn't know he was gross in that way. I only read his fun fairy tale ones, but having finished it, he does get as vulgar as the other horror authors, and I understand why those stories weren't the ones that everyone was hyping up in their Goodreads review. Okay, and now that we're at the end, I'm gonna do my quick superlatives, and while I'm doing those, you can let me know in the comments below what you read and loved this month. If you have been convinced to read any of these or persuaded against them, I would love to know. The best book that I read this month, I don't know what it is. I guess I'm gonna have to say, like, if there was one that was most likely to be in my favorites of the year, it's not gonna be a romance. So the fact that this was my only mystery thriller, my first 5-star of the year, I have to say Julie Chan is Dead was my favorite of the month. Best sequel, I think I only read one. I might be wrong, but this was a 3-star, but I think I have to choose The Geographer's Map to Romance. The best audiobook was How to Survive a Horror Story. I don't think it did anything particularly special or interesting, but it was a good time. Like, I have no complaints about the audiobook. Biggest disappointment, like, I guess it's this one, even though it was a 3, because of course it's the Raven Boys, and like I hyped it up in my mind so much. I will continue to read all of the graphic novels, but I actually think I might just look at them. I don't even know if I'm gonna read them. I think I'll just look at them. Other biggest disappointment is definitely gonna be When Javi Dumped Mari, because I just thought this was gonna be a 5-star. And then author I wanna read more from, I'm super intrigued by Leanne Zhang. Like, I wanna see what she's gonna do next. The one that I'll recommend the most, I think maybe Tusk Love. This was just like a solid, good romance fantasy, pretty smutty, but with enough world building stuff going on. I like their dynamic. And then if you're somebody who likes a wackadoodle thriller, of course I'm gonna recommend Julie Chan is Dead. Best cover. This one's hard. I wanna say Tusk Love. This art style I think is really beautiful. On the complete flip side, this is really horrifying. This exudes exactly what the stories are, and I think it's really well done. But also I have such a soft spot for A Game in Yellow. I just think this is so ominous, and it's like dripping, and it's very intriguing for a horror. But then I also really love Lucky Day. Just the graphics on here and the colors, and it's like kind of simplistic, and it looks like a card. It really exudes what the story is. So had a good time with that. And of course, there is a scary eyeball. My favorite title, I already talked about. I did a tag on TikTok recently where I talked about my favorite title on my TBR shelf, and I said Blood on Her Tongue. And now it's no longer on my TBR shelf. I have read it. It's just like so ominous and creepy, right? Favorite character? Oh, not again. Favorite character. As far as who I liked to read from a lot, I really liked being in Lottie's head, I guess. I kind of liked not everyone, but a lot of people in The Stand. Oh, and Emma and Elliot, I guess they were my favorite couple of the month. I liked the plot, I liked the writing, I liked the wedding vibes, and then I also liked the characters. I will chat with you in the comments below. I would of course love to hear what your favorite of the month was. Any recommendations are always welcome, even if we have totally different taste. And I will see you in another video soon. Yeah, this weekend, a vlog that I'm working on where I read some of your recommendations. So keep them coming. Bye!